Hi, I'm Jenny Fish from One Big Happy Yarn Company. Welcome to our Neon Dreams Knit Along. Today we are knitting this one skein herringbone cowl from start to finish. It's a quick and easy weekend project and awesome to make over and over again for gifts or personal accessories for yourself. You can get the kit with the yarn and pattern at onebighappy.com. Let's get started. We are using Madeline Tosh DK yarn. We are going to be using a US size 10.5 knitting needle to make a herringbone pattern cowl. So this is a super easy pattern. It's just a 2 round repeat. You'll still be using the stitches that you're used to making with just a little tweak. But with that, you get a thicker fabric and a really cool and interesting design texture. So with this, I also want to point out, look at this yarn. This is the Madeline Tosh DK, and this is called Pinata Pop. Now you're gonna see all these here as it's in this hank, all these different like groups of color, but once you knit it out, you can see it just like waterfall trickles through the cowl. So I'll show you how we do this. We're gonna start with casting on. So I'm using a US size 10.5 knitting needle. And to cast on, I'm going to be using another color called Cotton Candy Dreams. And I like this color too. I had a hard time choosing which color I was going to like finish and make the whole cowl in. So I practiced on several different colors and I liked all of them. So you can't go wrong. Just take a look on our website at all the different color options. You can't go wrong with any of them. Okay. We are doing a long tail cast on. Now your pattern will tell you how many stitches you need to cast on. I'm going to be making a sample here so we can go all the way through it, but I'm just going to grab some here. We're starting off with a long tail cast on. So we're going to make, let me put these down. There we go. Okay, we're going to make our slip knot like normal. Slide our needle in. Make sure I have, oh, I did it backwards. There we go, flip it around. I want my tail towards my body and my working yarn out here. I'm just so excited to make this. Okay, here we go. You're in your slingshot. You're gonna go under your thumb, around and through. And also too, if you need like a slower version of this, more information on the long tail cast on, we do have a stitch support video that we'll give you a link for, so you could go watch that one. But it's, this is, I think, one of the most common cast-ons is the long tail cast-on. So we're going to go, now I need to get enough cast-on here so I can go all the way around the cord on my circular needle. And then, of course, the pattern will give you more information on exactly how much I did. The great thing about this is you just cast on, and there's, like I said, the 2 round repeat. So that means you have round 1 and round 2, and you just keep repeating round 1, round 2, round 1, round 2. And basically until you're almost ready to run out of yarn, and then you bind off. I did not have very much yarn left over when I finished. So it was a great little one skein project. And literally I made this cowl in 2 days. But that was, 2 days of a weekend knit. So lots of movies watched. Okay, let me go ahead and finish this. Once I get ready to join the 2 in the round, then I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so I've got all my stitches cast on here. So now I need to join in the round. I need to make sure that the bump here all lines up so none of my stitches are twisted. And now I'm ready to join and start on round 1. Very important for this project because of how we work the stitches, and I'm going to show you that when I get back around. You want to use a locking stitch marker or some kind of stitch marker that opens and closes that you can remove and put back on. A round stitch marker will not work in this process, or it would work, but it would be very tedious. So get a locking stitch marker. I'm going to add that on here. Now I'm ready to start round 1. Okay, what I'm going to do is slide my needle under 2 stitches. So there's 1 and 2. And I'm going to knit into those 2 stitches Now when I come through, I'm only gonna drop this first stitch here off my needle. I'm keeping this one. So I'm gonna put my finger there, slip that first one off, and go back. Now I'm gonna knit through 2 again. And it's a little tight this first round, but it loosens up. And I'm only gonna slide off that first stitch. Okay, let's show you this. You continue doing this all the way around until you get to your stitch marker. Knit into 2, but only slide 1 off. Knit into 2, and only slide 1 off. So I'm going to go all the way around until I get back to my stitch marker, and then I'll show you how to transition from round 1 to round 2. Okay, I'm coming up to my stitch marker here, which is the end of round 1. So I'm going to show you how we work this process. I've knit into those 2, slide off 1 stitch. Well, now my stitch marker is in the way and I can't knit into that one. Here's what you do. You unclip, take your stitch marker off, knit into the next 2 stitches. Now one is from the beginning of the round, one is the other one from the last stitch from this same round. But you knit into those 2, slip 1 off. Now what we're going to do is we're going to come back with our locking stitch marker and we're going to put it to the right of that stitch that's on the needle. Now we are ready to start round 2. Now here's the little trick for this area right here where the 2 sides meet. This stitch that's left on here doesn't really have a foundation at the bottom. You'll see how that's kind of just floating there. Almost looks like a yarn over. What we need to do is have it flip or twist. And I'll show you what I do. I just simply come in and twist it like that. Because now for round 2, I'm going to be working through the back loop of every stitch. So for round 2, what we do is we knit through the back loop of 2 stitches. So I come in here, grab the back loop of each of the stitch, I knit into that. Now I only drop 1 stitch, just like before, off, leave the other one on. Come back in, knit through the back loop of 2 stitches, drop 1 stitch off, leave 1 stitch on. And I'll do this all the way around until I get to the stitch marker again. Okay, so I'm almost at the end here of round 2. I am knitting 2 stitches through the back loop and only dropping off 1 here. Now I've got my stitch marker there and only 1 stitch left. I need to take the stitch marker off, go ahead and knit through the next 2 through the back loop, slide off 1 stitch, and again now I'm going to slide my stitch marker to the right of the stitch that's on this needle right here. Okay, click that in. Now, as we look here, we see this is going the opposite direction. And we need to twist it back. So I'm just going to come down here, pick that up, slide it back. Now it's seated on this needle for a knit stitch. Now we're back to round 1. Knit 2 together, slide 1 stitch off. Knit 2 together, slide 1 stitch off. Now you're back to round 1. As you go around, I have another sample here where I'll show you what it looks like once you get a little bit more on your needles. This is using Joshua Tree. I love this deep, rich green color. Okay, so here I've got several rounds on here. You can see the first round, the stitches are going this way. Second round, the stitches are going that way. And that's what's giving us that herringbone pattern. And that's because you're working 2 stitches at a time, but then dropping one off. Then that stitch gets worked with the next stitch, and you're intertwining your stitches. It's the same motion as a regular knit stitch, just in a different direction. Now, we got to bind off, and then we're almost done. Here we go. So now I'm at the end of my round, and I'm ready to bind off. I want to go ahead and twist this stitch so that it's seated as a knit stitch. And then I'm just going to knit it normal. I'm not going to do the 2 stitches at a time. Okay, so I've knit 2 stitches. I'm going to pick up this first stitch, lift it up and over. So now I've bound off 1 stitch. Knit the next stitch, lift this stitch up and over, and I'll go ahead and do this all the way around. Once I finish that, then I'll cut my yarn, weave in my ends, and be done. So I do want to take a moment to talk about blocking. In this project, I don't have any built-in border stitches to keep the ends from curling. When you knit, sometimes you do get the curling. When I blocked this out, I just folded it in half. I did use pins on a blocking mat, and when it dried, it's perfect. I haven't had that much of an issue at all with it curling. I've worn it a couple of times, and I think it's great. So I would say when you're doing your bind off, keep it a little looser. And then also too, when you're casting on, keep it a little looser, and that'll also help with your edges. But I just had so much fun making this, and I want to thank you for joining me in making the Neon Dreams herringbone cowl. This is a quick and easy 1-skein cowl, and it's perfect to keep you warm and add a little bit of style to any outfit. Remember, you can get a kit with the yarn and pattern at onebighappy.com. Be sure to hit the subscribe button below and click the bell to be notified every time we have a new video. Happy knitting!